me.
So you're doing on Zoom and YouTube?
Yeah. Is the camera on?
Is the camera on? No. I gotta turn, I gotta.
Okay.
me see.
Right. Bring it down. Bring it down. Bring it down. Right. Bring it down.
That's what I thought you put it there for. I'm like, hey. All right. Again,
Right. Bring it down.
that's what I thought you put it there for. I'm like, hey. Okay, yeah, we good. Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right. Okay. Again. All right. All right. So we are good to go. That's what I thought you put it there for. Like, hey. Okay, yeah, we good. Again, welcome this morning to Developing Your Destiny Workshop. Excited to be here. We have some great speakers this morning. I ask that you grab your pen and paper, take lots of notes so that when you leave this room, the information can actually leave with you. We will, it will be recorded, so you will have a chance to get access to it again, but you might want to take it immediately and begin to put stuff to work. That's what this whole workshop is about. It's not just so that we can come and entertain y'all and give y'all a few jokes and all of that good stuff. If you don't mind, let me open with a word of prayer, and then we'll begin. Amen. All right. Most gracious Heavenly Father, Lord God, we thank you, we praise you, we magnify your holy name, Father. Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for all the people that have come, Lord God, to gain wisdom and knowledge and understanding. We pray that you be with each speaker and be with each participant. We place this in your hand, Lord Jesus, knowing that you're well able to keep that which is committed unto you. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. All right. So to start us off this morning, we will be hearing from Sarah Nicole Nadler. She's a licensed financial advisor, investor, a six-figure money coach for business women, the founder of Fierce Feminine Finance. She helps women to escape the worker bee lifestyle to become financially independent. She's also the founder of Match, making advocacy, the force for change in human rights. And that's actually where I met her the second time, where she educates youth on how to stand up for their rights without violence. Sarah has been featured on ABC, Fox, New York Weekly for her charitable works, and has raised more than $2.5 million for nonprofits since 2010. I am very pleased to introduce to you all and give her a round of applause as she come up, Sarah Nadler.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm rather short, so I'm going to pull this off. Is that okay? All right. All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. So today we're going to talk about how to fully fund your nonprofit mission. Give me a raise of hands. Who here is the founder or on the board of a nonprofit? Okay, good. Who? Hands down. Thank you so much. Put your hands up if you are interested in fundraising or you do any of it for a nonprofit to help them. Few more names. Okay, cool. So for those of you who are not, I hope that you'll bear with us for the next hour as I teach you something that who knows, maybe you'll be able to pass on to someone who needs it, okay? So just a little short introduction since you already did all the introducing. I am the founder of Match, which is a human rights movement I accidentally founded in 2018. We now span 13 different countries. So a lot of my time and effort these days goes into finding funding for them. There's nothing like having starving children and young girls married to 30-year-old men who are in desperate need around the world, and you're the only one they're all looking at going, hey, how are you going to help us solve this? Because you promised, right? So in my mind, when it comes to fundraising, the first foremost thing you need to have is an urgent need that you feel passionate about, right? And that's kind of where I started. Was I accidentally stumbled across this thing called human trafficking and didn't even realize up until then that it was real, right? I thought slavery ended. It never ended. In fact, there are more people enslaved today than there were during the US Civil War, right? So that was my start in this whole journey. Since then, I've raised $2.5 million for various nonprofits. I personally have volunteered more than 10,000 hours over the last 15 years. The reason I was able to do that is because I am a business owner myself, and so I can dictate my own time. So we're going to talk about how to fundraise. I'm hopefully going to teach you some things you never heard of before, or we're just going to re-exercise skills you may have already acquired in the past and just strengthen them, okay? So Tony Robbins once said, the only limit to your impact is your imagination and commitment. And no offense to Tony Robbins, but I think that he was missing one key ingredient. Because if you're a nonprofit leader, if you're someone who fundraises for nonprofits, raise your hand if you lack imaginative ways to fundraise. Oh, you feel like you do? Okay. I have seen fundraisers put on chicken costumes. I have seen nonprofit leaders walk door to door in the icy cold asking, right? Like, I feel like as nonprofit leaders, we do not lack imagination. I don't think we lack imagination. Now, if you do, that's okay. Tony Robbins is here for you. Okay. And then raise your hand if you feel like you lack commitment. You're like, oh, people get starved and that'll be all right. No, right? We didn't start a nonprofit because we lacked commitment, right? So if it's not imagination, for most of us, if it's not a lack of commitment, then what is it? What is it that is making it hard for us to fully fund our nonprofit? Okay. Well, I would say that the missing piece is knowledge. So I'm going to give you a little bit of knowledge today on how to fundraise, because it's not like you go, take a class in high school on how to find funding. Raise your hand if they taught you that at your school. They certainly didn't at mine. So if we're going to understand how to fully fund your nonprofit or your charitable campaign, the first thing you need to know is what motivates people to donate. What actually motivates people? Actually, let's undercut even that, because I've had some people tell me that they think people don't give anymore. Raise your hand if you've ever thought, like, the reason I can't get funding is because people just don't care anymore. People don't donate. Anyone think that? Okay, well, your community must be nicer than mine, because I sometimes felt like nobody gives anymore. But believe it or not, 69% of Americans give to charity every year. That means 7 out of every 10 people that you talk to gave to someone. So if they're not given to you, there must be something wrong about our approach. Can you see that? Statistically speaking. Yeah. So let's talk about, what do they donate to and why? More importantly, why, right? What motivates them? So you'll see on my screen, hopefully you guys can read this. I'll get out of the way if you can't. The smallest percentage of motivation is up here at the top. Who asked? Sometimes you might think, right? Like, oh, they didn't donate because they don't know me. Oh, I don't want to go ask strangers because they don't know me. Who's ever let that stop them? I have. I was a very shy person up until not too long ago. So who asked is actually the smallest. It's the smallest amount of motivation, okay? They don't care who's asking. That's not really why people donate. Second one is impact. So what does impact really mean? It means, how large is your mission, right? If I have $1,000 in my pocket and I have put in my budget that this $1,000 is for donation, okay? Most people have a number in mind when they think about donating. If my number is 1,000 and 2 people approach me, okay? Pastor approaches me saying, hey, I want to help all Kansas City youth to have a proper education. And then Ben, my husband back there, says, hey, I want to help 10 kids. Who am I going to give my $1,000 to? The person who says he can reach all of Kansas City and proves it to me, or the person who says he can reach 10? Well, okay. But most people are interested in the impact they can have. They want to have a larger impact if possible. Right now, obviously, I have to prove to you I really can reach all of Kansas City. But if I really believed he could do it, and I really believe Ben could only reach 10, I would probably give my $1,000 to the person who could do more, right? So we have to think big enough as a nonprofit that we actually inspire people, right? If you think small, they're not going to be very inspired. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, the next one is trustworthiness. Now, you and I both know that you're probably not going to take the money and run, right? But remember, this comes back to who asked, right? Probably not going to take the money and run, but what if they don't know you? How do we prove your trustworthiness? And I'm going to show you some examples later, okay? But just keep that in mind, that there's how much impact you're going to have. And even senior to that is how much do they trust you're actually going to have that impact? Are you a person of your word? If I say I will reach every child in Kansas City, or I will die on that hill trying, I better be able to prove it, right? That I at least have enough motivation to try. I will at least die on the hill, even if I don't succeed, right? That's trustworthiness. At the bottom, you'll see the biggest one is what your mission is. Does it align with my values and my purpose? That is the number one reason that people do. So what can we do as fundraisers to attract the people who have the same mission as us? Well, we talk about our mission, but we also talk about our values. What are your core values? Everybody has slightly different ones, even married couples, right? Sometimes we have very different core values. Even though we love each other and we stay together forever, we still can have differences in opinion. So trying to attract your tribe is what I call it, right? Find the people who have the similar values to you will help your nonprofit go more quickly, because that is the number one motivation. Okay, so let's pull this all together. I want you to show of hands, tell me one of your values. What is a core value for you? And I can give some examples if you need it. Shout it out. I know you've got them. You want some of my examples? Okay. So a core value of mine is that women are not less than men. In some countries of the world, that is a totally radical idea. I could be burned at the stake for thinking that, right? Here in the US, it's most parts of the US will agree with you. Down south, maybe not so much, right? But again, right? It's like, that is a core value. Nobody taught that to me. It's just life experience, maybe my religious beliefs, maybe my own, just observation in life, but it has built this core value to where I instinctively protest when I feel like someone is treating me differently because I'm a woman. It's instinctive now because it's a core value. So give me an example of one of yours. What is a core value you hold? Good. That's a great one. So if you were trying to fundraise for a nonprofit that believed in that value and had a mission around it, right? Like, we want to give all children equal opportunity to express their gifts, right? Maybe it's entrepreneurism or something like that. If you're trying to fundraise for that, you would constantly repeat the message of your values, because that's going to repel the people who would never give you a dime, get them out of your space. It's going to attract the people who believe so strongly in that value that even if they don't have room in their budget, they will set aside other priorities to give because it's a core value they hold. Does that make sense? Ben will tell you how many times I have donated when I probably should have paid for something else, right? But again, it's because I hold that value so deeply. Does that make sense? Cool. So you guys want one more example? Yeah. Okay, so let's do someone else. Give me another core value, something you hold really deeply. Perfect. Good. So as someone who doesn't have kids, right? I don't know that I would put all my money towards something that was just that, right? But someone who has children or someone who's lost a child, oh my goodness, that's probably a core value for them, right? And so by pushing that message constantly, and when I say pushing, I mean your social media posts about your nonprofit, when you get up and speak about your nonprofit, in the stories you tell, as I'll talk about in a minute, about your nonprofit, you would express that sentence over and over and over again. Who here is a business owner or entrepreneur? Anyone? Quite a few people. Okay, good. You know then, right? In marketing, one of the key principles of marketing is repetition of message. You don't come up with a great marketing idea and then just say it once, right? That's like a recipe for burnout, because then you got to constantly come up with new marketing ideas, right? Instead, you come up with one core message and you push it over and over and over and over again. Like, if I say just do it, who am I talking about? Good. Do you know that because they said it one time on the news? No, you know that because they've said it over and over and over again for decades, right? The same thing has to be true about your nonprofit. So if you had a nonprofit that had that core message, you would say it over and over and over, and you would get to the point where you were having nightmares about that mantra. Okay, good. Does this make sense to everybody? So that is how you motivate people, because that is the number one motivation people have for donating. After that, it's how much do they trust that you'll actually accomplish it. After that, it's how much impact, how much do they believe, how many people do they believe their dollar can stretch to, right? And then lastly, it's who asked, okay? So I'm gonna give you an example of one way you can easily increase how much people trust your nonprofit mission. The word photography means, let's break it down. Photo means light. It's actually the Greek word for light, photo, and then graphy means to write. So the word photography actually means to write with light. So every time I write out my mission and I write the words on my ad, or I write the words on my social media post, I've got to write 1,000 words, right? To express the same amount of emotion and message as I could get with one photo. We've all heard that before, right? A photo says 1,000 words. It says 1,000 words because photography means to write with light. So the number one thing we need to prove to people that we can have the impact we promise and that we have the mission we're saying we have is to have good photography, proving that message. So what message does this photo say to you? I'm just curious. Let's go around the room. I'll start with you. What does it say? Yeah, good. How about you? What does this communicate to you? If you just look at the photo, what would you think my mission was? That's right. How about you? That's right. Does the child look healthy? Yeah. Does he look emaciated or ill? No. Does the mother look unhealthy? No. Does she look particularly happy? At least content, right? At least content, right? Good. So this photo has a couple of things that I want to point out, which you probably already guessed looking over here, right? I can share an emotional story about her because you can see her. It makes it come alive. If I told you a story about her, but I didn't show you a photo, there could be this sense of distrust. Like, is she really talking about a real person? Does she really do this? Has she ever even helped a single person? Right? Like that thought can go through our minds, especially if you've never met me before, right? But the moment I show you a photo and I put a name to that face, all of a sudden it's hard to look away from her, isn't it? Especially if you have money burning a hole in your pocket and you came here knowing it was a fundraising event, right? By walking past that threshold into what you knew was a fundraising event, you've kind of tacitly agreed already that you are prepared to donate if you have money and if you believe in my mission. So by showing you a photo now, a good photo, I cement that trust. Does that make sense? Same thing on social media. But there's a couple of key details here. First of all, look how close up to her face I got. There isn't a bunch of background stuff that's confusing or draws your attention. The first thing that drew your attention was her face. Now I want you to close your eyes. Tell me what's in the background behind her. Ooh, someone's really good. You're doing way better than you were supposed to. My point being that she drew your attention more than the background, but maybe I was wrong. Okay, good. So then the other thing that was really good here was the writing with light was well done, right? There's good lighting on her face. I can actually see her face. There aren't weird shadows, as I'll show you in a minute, right? Examples of good and bad photography. This one is wrong because of the lighting. There's nothing else wrong with that photo, right? But it doesn't communicate as well who she is. It could even communicate sort of a sadder or more dreary message because it's not as well lit. Do you guys see that? So when we're taking photos of our events, when we're taking photos of people we've helped in our nonprofit, first of all, we want to show as many people as possible. So if you can fill a room and take a picture, that's better, right? If you have an event like this, as we did, have everybody come to the front so we can take a photo that looks like full seats, not a bunch of empty seats, which makes it look like nobody cares, right? So we want to, as best as possible, show photos that prove and use good lighting. Does that make sense? Because believe it or not, it will actually have an impact on how much you can fundraise, okay? All right, now I'm going to give you another tool here for how to accomplish fundraising. And that is when you get into a conversation with somebody, don't throw facts at them. Okay, we all do it. I know it's so easy to be like, well, statistically, 78% of children are underfed and 72% of adults are blah, 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 blah. And we start like throwing all these facts at people. And facts can be useful, but I want you to think with emotion first, okay? Emotion is what makes people act. So I have this phrase that I keep in my mind, which you guys might want to write down because I love this one, right? Facts make people think. Emotion makes people act. So which would you rather? Would you rather have people think about your nonprofit? Or would you rather have people donate, volunteer, take action, go lobby, stand in the streets holding hands, right? Like, do you want people to act? Do you want people to think, right? Yes, ma'am. If I can remember, it's facts make people think, emotions make people act. Emotions make people act. So we want people to take action. So if we want them to take action, we have to cause an emotional response. And facts just don't always do that, right? Especially if it's a fact that's not real to them. If you shock them with the statistics, sometimes that'll have an emotional impact, right? I know I've been shocked in the past of like, what? Like just the other day, I was at an event. Dr. Mary Shuttleworth came to town. I don't know if you guys know who she is, but she's the founder of Youth for Human Rights. She actually came to town. She's been an idol of mine for a decade. And I got the opportunity to listen, and I was in the front row, of course, watching her speak. And she threw this fact out that Missouri is actually number 5 on the state in the US for human trafficking. I had no idea that Missouri was so high. I mean, out of 50 states, we're number 5. I was ready to like bar my door and not come out, you know? That's like scary to me. But that fact had an emotional impact on me, right? But most of the time when we throw facts at people, they just go home and think about them. That's not what we want. So instead, we're going to tell a story. And we have a specific way we have to tell this story so it doesn't become a novel where the person starts to kind of drool and fall asleep listening to your story, right? And we also have to tell it in a way that inspires action at the end, all right? The reason why storytelling is so vital is because if you think about it, storytelling is actually 30,000 years old. It is woven into our culture. It is woven into our DNA that we listen to stories more than anything else, because for a very long time, that was how you learned anything, right? Back in the day, there was no such thing as writing. There were only stories that were painted in caves and things like that, right? A couple thousand years ago, 80% of human beings on planet Earth were illiterate. Only the super wealthy could read anyway. And so bards, you know what a bard is? A bard, they would travel all across Europe playing music and telling stories, these epic stories that were meant to teach lessons. And that's the only way anybody had to learn because people couldn't read, right? So only in the last few hundred years have we all generally become literate enough to study in any other way. That's why storytelling is so powerful. Okay, so we're going to learn how to tell a right story that will actually get people to want to take action. The first one is we have to come up with a hero. So I'm going to go back a few slides. Let's use her as our hero, okay? She's a young girl. I'm not going to tell you her name. She was living in Kenya, okay? And she was raped. 14 years old, became pregnant, thrown out by her family, okay? Living on the streets, pregnant at 14, which even when you're not living on the streets in Kenya, you're living off of usually $1 a day, the equivalent of a US dollar, I should say, per day, okay? Being on the streets, she was underfed, very underfed when she came into our world, all right? And she had no safe place to deliver her baby, no way to feed her baby, even if she had, right? It was statistically very unlikely that that child would survive childbirth or the mother would, all right? So she's our hero in the story. Our hero used to blank. Have I captivated you with my story yet? I told you a negative thing that our hero used to experience, right? Step 2, our hero discovered. So my partners in Kenya have a charity, let's just call it a charity, okay? It's a center that they put together for pregnant teens, all right? And they took her in, fed her, got her proper medical care, helped deliver the baby, and have been educating her in a profession. She is going to be a seamstress. She's very excited about it. She had an option of a few different things she could choose. That's the one she chose, okay? She is starting to mend fences with her family, all right? Now I've kind of jumped ahead, so let's go back. Until the hero discovered our nonprofit. There has to be a place here where we plug in what we do, otherwise we won't get any donations, right? So until they discovered the solution we offer, now they blank. So now I'm going to paint a picture of what her life is like today. You saw her, she's healthy, she is not underfed, she is feeding herself. That brings personal pride. She's not receiving charity anymore. She's giving back, she is raising money or earning money for herself and her child. She's getting ready to move out of the facility and live her life, the rest of her life, right? So that is step 3, is show how their life is different, okay? Now we move to step 4. If I were a business, I would simply say, we can do that for you too. But probably none of you in the room are 14-year-olds who are pregnant, right? So instead we have to revise step 4 to the nonprofit mission and say, show you a picture of a child who is not in the facility because we cannot fund it, right? Or show you a picture of 20 children who are on a waiting list to get into the facility because we haven't funded yet for them to be there, right? We need funding to go out and find more people like her. We know they exist, but unfortunately we can't welcome them in because we couldn't feed them. We don't have the money, right? So that's the point where we ask for a donation. We make it clear that they can help 10 or 20 or 30 more people like her. And then we usually name a number. How much did it cost to get her through that program? In US dollars, it's only about $50 because our dollar has so much buying power in Kenya, right? So coming back to our original, how much impact can you have with only $50? That's huge. You just saved 2 lives with $50, right? The mission, well, hopefully I already ascertained that you have similar core values to mine before I even started this conversation, started telling you my story, right? And I've proven the trustworthiness of my organization by showing you a photo, by telling you a story that impacts your heart. Does that make sense? Okay, so this is the tough part. I want you to turn to the person next to you and tell a story. I'll leave this up on the screen, okay? I want you to think of a hero, someone that you've helped in the past. If you don't have a nonprofit, then help the person next to you who does. Okay, you can be the listener. But let's really practice this. Bishop, do you want to come up and we can practice together? Come on over. How are we doing? Still got a few stories to tell, or are we finished? All right, all right, if we continue. No, I wanted to let you finish. Okay, so did you feel like you told a pretty good story? Okay, so now I'm going to tell you the hardest part for those of us who are overachiever givers. We never want to ask for help, right? And asking for that donation can be the toughest part. Who agrees with that? Okay, yeah. So I was just coaching Bishop Hero on a little tip for how to do step 4. But before we get to that, I want to talk about step 2. So if we look at step 2, it's until your hero discovered, right? We tend to be humble and to gloss over the things we did that created the impact in that person's life. And unfortunately, in the fundraising process, that's one of the most damaging things we can do, is to be humble and to gloss over what we did that created that impact, because then we have stripped our story of its teeth. Right? We've stripped our story of its ability to prove we can create the impact we're promising. So Will you give me the example that you gave earlier of what you said on your step 2 and then how we changed it? Do you think you could do that? I don't know about you, but my short-term recall couldn't do it. So I can summarize if that's okay. Okay, I'll summarize. So the first time you told me the story, he said, I helped mentor him. And that was his step 2. Okay. Now notice how that doesn't have teeth, right? That doesn't really capture my heart and go, wow, you did what for him? Right? Doesn't really have that much emotional impact. So the second time when I asked him to get specific, and here's my rule of thumb, is I try to give 1, 2, or 3. I don't go 5, I don't go 10, because then it starts to overwhelm and person starts to fall asleep and drool, right? Well, that's not what we want. So 1, 2, or 3 things, specific things, maybe even specific moments, as we'll get to in a minute, specific things that I did that created that transformation that I'm promising. Does that make sense? So tell me 1, 2, or 3 specific things that you did for him.
Well, in the process of mentoring him, every time he would call, I would answer the phone and walk him through whatever the problem was that he had.
And this was a young man with no parents who was homeless. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being homeless, having no one in your life to mentor you? And here's a man who, at no cost to you, will answer the phone and listen. I don't know about you, but I get chills. I think of times in my life, right? As the person being asked for donation, I think of times in my life where either I had that privilege and for the first time I'm realizing how privileged that was, or times when I didn't have that privilege and I go, where were you when I needed you, right? As the person being asked for that donation, it has an emotional impact on me because I can experience that. Does that make sense? So that's our step 2. We have to make it real in their world that this has an impact. And then we got to do step 4. So give me your best step 4. Ready?
What I was able to do for him was good, but there are other boys, there are other young ladies who also need to have that type of one-on-one connection or mentorship, and I could help a lot more if you would give me $100 donation.
Woo! Now, can you see how hard it is to make that ask? But man, I'm like reaching in my pocket the moment it comes out of his mouth, right? Because he's asserting an exact amount. And as long as my budget can even stretch to imagine that, it's going to come out. Do you guys see that? Yeah. So thank you so much. Let's give him a hand. It is not easy to stand up here and be drilled. All right. All right. So I'm going to give you one more tool today, and then we're going to be done. I'm going to get out of here because I know you guys have other things you want to talk about. But how do we really cause that emotional impact in every story? I'm going to give you one tip, okay? Think of your 5 senses. If you can't think of a way to make this story emotional, add one of the senses. I remember when he walked up to me for the first time, and I knew he was homeless, but the smell, it hit me like a brick wall. And I, right, in respect to the young man, I did my best not to flinch, but I thought, oh my goodness, how's this young man ever going to get a job if I don't help him? Because no employer is going to smell that and be willing to give him a job, right? See how I just created an emotional impact on you just by talking about one of the senses, which is the smell I smelled when that person came to me for help, right? What about sight? How could I use that? It was real to me the first time I saw, when I walked into the very first domestic violence shelter. Up until that moment, it was something that happened to other people. And it wasn't really something that I felt impacted my life. And then I saw her bruises. And there was nothing I could do to deny, right? My heart wanted to deny that that really happens to people, but I could no longer turn a blind eye, and I had to help. Would that inspire you to help too, right? Because now you're picturing, even if you've never seen a bruise in your life, You're picturing what you've seen in the movies. You're picturing what you've seen down the street from you, right? See how that it paints a picture. What about touch? Touch. Okay. Well, I'm not going to do too triggering here, but I've been sexually abused. Okay. And that started my whole journey of wanting to help people on the subject and wanting to help women. But if I really want to get a room going, I'll tell them how it felt to wake up in the middle of the night, someone's hand under my shirt, someone I had not given permission to be there, right? That's a true story. Every one of the ones I'm telling you. Thank you. Thank you. But again, right? Like, I'm not going to try to trigger a whole room full of domestic violence victims with that story. I would probably choose a different story, right? But again, by telling the touch I felt, I trigger emotion, right? Let's take the hearing. Okay. Have you ever had a child tell you, and I have had a child tell you what it sounds like to have their parents fighting in the next room and hear a thump? And that child, no matter how small they are, they always seem to know what that thump means. Maybe they've experienced it on the playground, or maybe they've personally been between mom and dad when someone got mad, right? But that sound can be so triggering to a little child. And when I tell you that story, even if you've never been in that situation, you put yourself in that child's shoes and you feel emotion, right? So little bit goes a long way with this, because if we crush the person we're asking for donations, if we trigger them into this like traumatic experience, they're probably not going to donate, right? Or they'll feel manipulated into it. So that's not the effect we're trying to create, but a little bit of emotion just to have enough of an impact that they get you, right? That is one way to make sure that your message is really getting through, because it's so easy, especially in the US. When I've been to other countries, it's actually not as hard in a lot of other countries to get people to donate and to give, right? And in the poorer parts of the US, it's easier than it is in the wealthier parts of the US, because the wealthier parts of the US tend to have less trauma in their life, and therefore it's less real to them. So often when I'm on a stage with, 1,000 or 500 or whatever people who are wealthier people, I tend to use more emotion in my story than with people who I think might have actually experienced it and be triggered by my story. Because I'm not trying to trigger anyone, right? I'm trying to get people to realize this is an actual problem that really happens to real people. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. I think we're done with that one. I have 5 pillars to nonprofit funding. The basics I just taught you apply in every single one. The first one, of course, is belief or prayer, right? You're not going to fundraise very much if you don't believe in your own mission. You're not going to fundraise very much if you think God, the almighty woo-woo Queen Gaia of the earth, or whoever you believe in, doesn't think your mission is proper, right? If you feel like you're doing something wrong by fundraising for this mission, you're not going to fundraise very well, okay? So find a passion you believe in. That's step 1. Step 2 is ask for individuals. And I will tell you right now, if you go trying to jump to events and asking businesses and organizations for large donations and writing grants and things like that, but you've never had a friend or family member donate to your mission, you're going to really struggle to do those advanced ones, because they're going to be like, well, how come the people in your life don't even believe in this, right? Same thing happens in nonprofits when I teach how to get funding, right? When you approach investors and ask for like angel investors and stuff like that, they always ask you, have you done a friends and family round? How much did you raise? If you're like, oh, my grandma gave me $5, they look at you a little like, all right, what's wrong with the product you're trying to sell, right? So always go for individuals first and do your best work either in your community or just in a community nearby, right? Like there are zip codes around Kansas City that, a couple $100 is like what they spend on coffee every week, right? So find connections in those areas and get in front of individual people, and don't be afraid to do step 4, right? Once you've done that, you've mastered the skill of asking right? Individuals, now go after the businesses. The key to getting businesses, larger corporations and whatnot, to donate large amounts to your nonprofit is to use what's called the win-win paradigm. You guys familiar with that? The win-win paradigm is where obviously there's something in it for me. I'm going to get your money, right? So what's in it for them? Usually what's in it for them is something around either being seen as cool by supporting you, right? You have to be okay with being their sort of like, I don't know how to put this. You have to feel okay with the fact that they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart, or it's a tax reason, right? So this time of year is a really good time of year to approach large businesses and corporations, because any amount of misestimation in their financial planning means they're looking at tax season going, right? So they'd rather spend it on you than spend it on the IRS. So there's times a year that are a good time to approach, and then just any time you can think of that it's a good example of why they should do that. So for me, I've found like in certain, right, there's like, what's the word? Like domestic abuse awareness month. Great. During that month, I will go to any businesses that are women owned or women led that are like larger corporations, and I'll say, hey, I'd love to collaborate with you on an event to feature your business as standing up for this important topic. See how I'm making it a win-win for them. And of course, I'm going to get donations and they're going to fill the room and I'm going to fundraise. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the key to getting businesses most of the time. Most of the time, they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. So don't even approach it. Like if you find someone who is, that's great. I mean, that's like a wonderful thing to do, but go at it with something that's in it for them, even if it's just PR. Okay. The last one is writing grants, and I could do a whole nother hour of workshops on how to get grants, so I won't. But again, the key here is if you haven't ever asked individuals, if you've never put on an event of your own, if you have never fundraised, it's going to be really hard to find a grant. So do those steps first. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here, just to may have some time for Q&A. One of the most powerful strategies I've used in smaller communities, especially for kind of up and coming nonprofits that don't have like 50 employees yet or anything like that, is the power of a family and friends letter. I know it sounds ridiculous because you're like, all my friends are just as broke as me. But the truth is, around the holiday season, especially, people tend to give more. So a heartfelt letter sent to your friends and family, especially if it includes like, this may not be a good season for you, but if you know someone who would like to donate, please pass this letter on. That kind of message is very, very powerful and can often get more donations than usual during this time of year. So think of who was on your wedding list, right? If you had a big bash, great. If they were willing to come to the wedding, they're probably going to be willing to donate $5, whatever, right? And also, who do you send Christmas cards to? If you have a big list of people you're usually sending cards to, that's probably the same list you should be sending your letter to. Okay. Even if that list is just 3 to 5 people, just remember every donation counts. When I'm doing fundraising from the stage, and again, we've got like a big room of people, I know that there's varying levels of ability to give. And I always tell the story, right? You guys know from the Bible of like, hey, who gave more? The money lender who gave, $500, let's say, or the poor man who gave $1? Who gave more? The poor man did, right? He gave more percentage to how much he had to give. So I always remind people when you're writing your family and friends letter or you're doing fundraising from the stage, always remind people that every dollar counts and that the person who had $1 and gave $1 gave more than the person who has $1 million in the bank or $1 million net worth and gave 500. Okay. Cool. That's all I have to say today. Does anybody have any questions for me? I don't bite, I promise. Yes, sir. Of course. Yeah, yeah. So I think the question for anybody who's watching online, the question was, even though mission is at the bottom and it's the largest impact on people's giving, it seems like that would be the one you'd start with first. And yes, that's true, especially if you are just starting out and the number of people you've helped is maybe, you could count it on one hand still. You can still talk about the impact you intend to have, right? And prove your trustworthiness through just passion. And like I said before, like willingness to die on that hill, like I will push this mission with the funds you give me until my dying breath. Like that passion usually speaks enough, even if you don't have photos or you don't have any real stories to share yet. Yeah. Mm. Totally. Yeah. Right. When you say under one umbrella, do you mean you have a lot of different messages and you're struggling to align them? Okay. Yeah. I think that's an interesting one. I think it's kind of a branding question more than anything else, right? It's like when I think about my core values, right, which is what we're talking about, I think, and how to promote that. I think about if two people were in a room at a party or just a social gathering and one of them knew me and the other one had never heard of me, what would I want the person who knew me to say to the other person about me, right? Like, what's that one thing I want to be known for? So if that's the one thing you want to be known for, obviously there's weaving it into your music, right? But also like take a look at the daily activities that you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, how can I don't know, wear a t-shirt that says it all the time? How can I embody that? When I think of responsibility to humanity above self, I think of the fact that there's like the YOLO club. It's what my husband and I call them, like the you only live once, so let's go do every unethical thing we can think of. I call that the YOLO club. And, there's a lot of power in putting yourself first, especially if you've spent your whole life giving and now you're finally taking good care of yourself. And I do believe that you can't pour from an empty cup, but I totally believe that when you start to put yourself above everyone else, you have become the evil that you fought, right? So I don't know if I'm really answering your question, but I would say find, a dozen ways to explain that and stories to share that tell people that, because unless it's Sunday, nobody likes to be preached to, right? So we have to find ways that are real to people. And, depending on your age group, you can tell lots of stories that really tell the truth of the fact that the person who puts themselves first above all else is usually going to find themselves one day looking in a mirror and not recognizing who that person is. Yeah. Right. 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 Totally. Yeah, I think again, it's a way of thinking, right? Like responsibility to others above self is not, it's not like a specific action. You know what I mean? It's not like, here's how you do that as a robot. It's a mindset shift that people have to have. And the best way to do that, like I said at the beginning, is push that message and embody that message in your music, in your t-shirt that you wear every day, in the way you act. Every time someone asks you why you did something, tell them that that is the reason, right? And the more you do that, the more you will repel the YOLO club and attract the people who have that as a core value or wish they did, right? Realize that they don't and go, wow, I kind of wish I was more like him. And you'll attract those people. So I think it's just a repetition of message thing. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Of course. Any other questions about strategy, how to fundraise? No? All right. Thank you so much for having me up here, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right. So I hope y'all took lots of notes. That's what So if you didn't take lots of notes, then that means the YouTube and the Zoom should I guess I'm not in camera. All right. So we expect y'all to, it should be at least 100 views on there on the YouTube. All right. Our next presenter, her name is Zandra Nelson. She's been an insurance agent for over 10 years. She started her insurance career with People Helping People with an excellent trainer. Just a few years ago, she stepped out on faith and created Legacy Financial Group by taking her passion to bridge the wealth gap by providing financial literacy workshops that aren't offered in our community. She believes that it is her responsibility to guide each of her clients through their questions and provide products and knowledge that can best serve them. So at this time, put your hands together for Zandra Nelson.
Good morning. First Saturday. Well, last Saturday. What I'm going to be talking to you about is the different structures, different type of structures in business. And a lot of people, when they start businesses, they're like, oh, I can do LLC. And yeah, you do an LLC, but do you really do an LLC? Do you know about partnerships? Do you know about joint ventures? There is 4 main types of businesses that are very common, but in all, there are really 10 business structures that a lot of people don't know about. They only know about the 4. The 4 that usually people tend to go to is sole proprietorship partnerships, LLCs, which most people do, or corporations. And when you think about corporations, you think about like Walmart or Target. But yeah, you think about those, but do you understand what a C Corp is? Do you understand what an S Corp is? Does anybody know? Okay, only one person. So that's what I'm saying. When you go into business, you really must do your research on, what kind of, not only what kind of business you want to go into, but what kind of business structure you want. There's different ways to determine how you want your business structure to be, and it can consist of, the main one that's on my list is taxes. How you want to pay your taxes when you have your business. There's hierarchy. Um, where on the chart do you want to be in your business? Um, one thing that you cannot get around is paperwork. A lot of paperwork you have to do. Make sure you do your paperwork correctly. If you don't, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble with IRS. Um, uh, Another one, is registration, how you register your business. And it's like the young lady Sarah came up, talking about fundraising. Depending on how your business is structured, is how you can get money in your business, how it's structured and everything. But, the 10 different types of businesses or sole proprietorship. There's partnerships, but there's like two types: general partnership, limited partnership. There's LLCs, there's an LLP, which is limited liability partnership. C corporations, S corporations. There's benefit corporation. There's limited liability, which are LLCs, nonprofit, and joint ventures. I know majority of people in here know about nonprofits. Everybody, I know with nonprofits, everybody's like, oh yeah, we can start a nonprofit and get all this money for a nonprofit. Please do not go into the mindset of opening a nonprofit and doing that. Because if you want to go to jail, that's the fastest way to go to jail, is starting a nonprofit and messing up their money and you don't know what you're doing. I have worked for nonprofits. I have worked for Now It's Home for Children. That's a nonprofit. Right now I work for the school district. That's a nonprofit. I worked for 18th and Vine, the Jazz Museum. And I can tell you a story about them. When they first started, they were known as the 18th and Vine Authority. That was the original name. Well, they got into a little bit of trouble. They were sued by a contractor. And my thing is, this is my motto. Whenever I work for anybody in dealing with accounting, two things I will tell you. One, I will not lie for you, and two, I will not go to jail for you. I'm too pretty to go to jail. They had a contractor sue them. And so what they did was they took their money from the 18th and Vine Authority. They changed their name, took that money and moved it over to the new name of the Jazz Museum, which is it's the American Jazz Museum. That's the new name. And the contract was awarded, I think, $100,000. And they were supposed to pay that person. Person never got paid because they took that money and moved it from there to there. That is so illegal. And they were like, well, Xandra, we need you to do. I was like, nope, not doing it. I said, get the CFO to do it. I'm not doing it. I took off for a week because I didn't want my name associated with nothing. And, another example I had where I worked for another nonprofit, and this man, he just screws one all there. This is what he would do. When we would have to fill orders, he would come, write himself a check, take that money, buy stuff on eBay, resell it, and kept the money but never replaced the money that he took. I'm like, sir, that's embezzlement. He's like, oh, that's not embezzlement. This is my company. What do you mean? I said, sir, I don't care if it was Jesus's company. That's embezzlement. He said, tomato, tomato. I resigned. No, I said, I know. I said, I can't do it. He's like, oh, you would be the main one to tell me. No, IRS is gonna get you anyway, either way. And a couple months later, found out he was raided by DEA. He found out he had guns at his company. I didn't know he was a felon. He wasn't supposed to have guns. The whole business is shut down. And it was really sad because the business was his parents' business. His parents just gave it to him. I'm like, wow, that's just really sad. But I said, but that's what happens when you mess around with money like that and you really, really don't know. So if you have a nonprofit, don't go into business thinking, oh, I'm gonna get all these donations and I can do whatever I want. No, you can't. So please don't do that. But I don't do good on business either. It's gonna visit you. Okay. So the first business partnership we're gonna talk about is sole proprietorship. This is the most simple and the most common business entity that a lot of people do when they first start business because and this one is fairly easy. There's really no formal action. You're the only owner. So which means all paperwork and stuff is on you. You have a choice. You can either put it in your name or you can do doing business as, like I have a couple of businesses. I have a nail business, which is Spilled Polish. I have another business, I have a Legacy Financial Group. I have Integrity Notary, and I have Nelson's bookkeeping services. So all of those, well, at first they were sole proprietorships, and then I moved them to LLCs. And as I start working in insurance, I then went ahead and put them in my trust. So I don't own them. I run them, but I don't own them. My trust owns them. And then my trust pays me. And and doing the trust is something totally different. We can do that too later on down the road. Now, the only thing with the sole proprietorship is you have to remember the business income is your income. And this is what a lot of people fail at is they don't understand that it's your responsibility to pay all taxes on your businesses. A lot of people don't realize that. So you'll fill out a 1040 and a Schedule C when you do a sole proprietorship. Now, the positive thing about proprietorships is it's simple. It's the least expensive business structure to establish. You have complete control. And the tax preparation is really, really easy. Now, the negative part about it is you're liable for everything. Okay, say like, for example, you have a brick and mortar business, person comes in and falls, do the little slip and fall thing, you're responsible for everything. Them going to the hospital, paying all their bills. If they can go to court and sue you, you're responsible if that judgment goes against you. So that's the only thing about sole proprietorships that I don't like. The next one we're going to talk about is LLCs. Who has an LLC? Okay. Did you hear about the new law? You're fired. You're fired. And now, I think is it end of this year or you gotta do it next year? Okay, next year you have to, basically the IRS wants to know who runs your LLC. You have to report that. And a lot of people, I'm like, I don't have to do it because trust owns mine, but the IRS is stating they want to know who runs the LLC, who owns it. And if you don't report it, they're coming after you. So I don't want to see you on the woman function. Now, the owners of an LLC, they're referred to as members. They're called members. Because you can have more than one person in an LLC who owns it. They have to report your profits and losses on your personal federal tax returns, just like owners of a partnership would. So, LLCs, they're okay. I advise you to take, like, when you have LLCs, any business, take out E&O insurance. I advise you to take up to $1 million. $1 million would run you like probably 60 bucks a year. E&O, air and omissions insurance. Take that out. That will help you a lot in case someone would try to sue you. Because you really don't want that. I'm not saying they would, but it just helps to be protected. Even though the federal government does not recognize LLCs as a separate tax entity, but it's all right. Your federal income tax is passed on I can say this, hold on. The business itself is not taxed. Okay. Instead, the federal income tax is passed on to the members. So it's really paid through your personal income tax. Like I said, you'll do a schedule. It'll be the same as sole proprietorship. You'll do a Schedule C form and a 1040 form. Let's see. The positive thing about LLCs are you're protected personally. So like somebody try to sue you, they can only sue what your business is worth and not your personal stuff. Now in a sole proprietorship, like I said, when I say you're responsible for everything, they can put a lien on your house, your car, everything. Anything that you own, they can put a lien on it. But with the LLC, they can't. They can only limit to what you own in the business. Wherever business you own, record keeping is a must. Please. I've been an accountant. When income tax come around, the reason why accountants charge so much for businesses, you have a lot of people that come in the office with a shoebox of receipts and say, here you go. Really? And that's one of the reasons I don't do taxes anymore, but that is, they have a lot of software now that you can go out and purchase to keep all your stuff, all your records and stuff straight. Like for example, go out, this is what I do. Go out to dinner, ask the person across from you, tell me about my business. Guess what? You get the right to deduct that off. Talk about your business, 5-10 minutes. You write all that off. Entertainment, vacations. Did you know you can deduct $12,500 off every year? Hire your kids. Yes, how you get your taxes, Lord, I have four, and I incorporated my granddaughter to start working for me too. So that's one of the positives about about owning the business, those deductions. The negative part about a LLC is limit to life. If a member leaves, like say like you're the only one that owns the business and you die, the company dies. Not unless you have some provision set up where someone takes it over. And then the self-employment tax. Other than that, that's what's what a LLC is. A C corp. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that I think an S corp is the only one that if you do a corporation that you could get a legal refund if you have it in a corporation. But like I said, a corporation, everybody think of Walmart, Target, but anybody can have their business a legal liability. Excuse me. It says that the corporation itself is held legally liable to the actions and debts that the business incurs and not the shareholders. So you can have, for example, one person can be a corporation. It's like wearing many hats, like a sole proprietorship. You can be everything in a business. Me personally, I just write all my kids down. They don't never do nothing, you know. I just do that because I do have one S corporation. It's a corporation is more complex because of the tax and the legal requirements. I'm not gonna go all into it because this is real daunting, but I'm gonna give you the pros and cons of the corporation. The positive is a corporation is limited liability because, like I said, you're separate from the business. You're able to generate capital, raise funding. It's a corporate tax, which means you're not taxed, the business is. And it tracks, well, depends on how you set up your company and what your company is about. It also attracts potential employees. Or I'm gonna do an S corporation, do the corporations together. Okay. Now, an S corporation is created through the IRS tax election. It is a subchapter 5, oh, excuse me, subchapter S designation from the IRS. Yeah, excuse me. My mind just went blank. It's different from the traditional corporation that profits and losses can pass through to your personal tax return. The business is not taxed itself, only the shareholders are taxed. That's what makes the difference between an S corporation and a C corporation. The S corporation, the shareholders are taxed. See, you have to register with the IRS. You have to register with the state and with the local revenue agencies. You have to obtain a tax ID number or a permit with the S corporation. You must file a form 2553 to elect an S corporation status within 2 months and 15 days after the beginning of the tax year. Anytime before the tax year for the status to be effective. And if you don't, they're real stickler on this, very, very stickler on this. That's why it's important to know why, which entity that you want as your business. Now, the positive attributes is tax savings, business expense tax credits, and it's independent life, which means the business will live on. It's only two negatives: strict operational process and the shareholders' compensation requirements for S corporation. Now, for a partnership is a single business which has two or more people who share ownership. And I advise, like, if you have a partnership, you get a business owner policy on each other. So if one person passes away, not only the business will still be able to thrive, survive, and will have revenue. A lot of people don't think about that when they have partnerships. Each partner should contribute in all aspects of the area in the businesses, including money, labor, and skills. And this is something that you really need to talk about with your business partner and ask them, okay, we want to start business together. What aspect in the business are you skilled in? Because everybody's not skilled with money. Everybody can't pay bills on time. Everybody, and then you have some people that, you may have one person that don't know how to pay bills on time, but yet you have another person that knows how to market, go out there to bring people in. You have some people that are good at sales. So you really have to sit down and discuss, what's your skill? How can we operate this? What do you want your duties to be? Blah, blah, blah. And always check each other, hold each other accountable. Then you have to see what kind of ownership split that you want. If you want it 60-40, 70-30, or you want it 50-50. And always draw up a contract. It's nothing wrong with having verbal, but with the written contract, you can never go wrong. You can't say, well, sir, I told you I'll do such and such. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. You can't argue with if you have a contract. Cannot argue if you have a contract. So if you lay out everything in a contract, you also include an exit strategy. If you want to sell the business, how will you go about selling your business? Maybe one person wants to sell, but another person doesn't. In a contract, you need to have, okay, if you want to sell, if you want to get out, it's your responsibility to find another partner. Or if that person agrees to it, okay, that's fine, find me another partner. Or you can say, well, I don't want another partner. Just sell me your shares or pay me out, and I'll restructure it either to an LLC or S corporation or C corporation. You can also do it that way also. And also have regular meetings. So you know what's going on. You can't say, be caught off guard. Oh, I didn't know that was going on. Oh, I didn't know you were in this meeting with such and such. Such and such told me that we doing these kind of deals. Where'd you leave me out? It's best, I'll always have, True. But a lot of people don't think of it that way. They're like, well, I'm owning the business. I don't got to tell you everything. Yeah, you'll really be surprised. Well, there are three types of partnerships. There are general partnerships. There's limited partnerships, and there are joint ventures. Now, joint ventures, for example, I guess the best way I can say joint ventures or give an example, is the Justice and Dignity Center. It's one corporation, but many, many businesses, and we all doing the same thing, is helping the community. That's a joint venture. People, get into these all the time. And as long as your values line up, it's a go. Now, get into the taxes of the partnership. You must file an annual information return report to the IRS. The report consists of the income, deductions, gains and losses for the business operations. But the business itself does not pay income tax. Instead, it passes through profit and loss to the partners. So you'll have like a profit and loss statement that you'll file with your taxes. Let's see. The partnership taxes generally include the annual return of income, employment taxes, and the excess tax. Partnerships responsible for several additional taxes include income tax, self-employment tax, and estimated tax. You're like, all these taxes? Yes, all these taxes. That's how the world goes around. The positive attributes of a partnership is it's easy and expensive, because the form of a business structure is easy and expensive. Shared financial commitment. Each partner is equally invested in the success of the business, hopefully. Good partnerships have the advantage of pooling resources, obtain capital. They complement each partner's skills, and the incentives, sometimes it depends on if you have employees, offer employees the opportunity to become a partner. And this is what attracts different people. For example, by this one, like when I started out in insurance with PHP, people helping people, one year they had an incentive where I just didn't do it. They had where if you would grow your team to 120 people, that you will actually become a business, you will actually become a partner. You get a percentage of the business of PHP. And PHP is a very big company, but that just wasn't my cup of tea. I'm like, no, that. So I decided to step on faith and do my own. Because when I got into insurance, the way I looked at it, I saw where, I don't know, a bell just clicked on me, because I'm like, I've been in accounting for the last 30-something years. And I realized that our people lack financial literacy. And I was like, a light bulb just came on. I was like, hey, that's what I need to do. I need to go out and tell my people about financial literacy. And with the gap, with the wealth gap, I was like, I can show them how to, shrink that gap. And so my goal is to try to have every last person on the east side with an insurance policy. And my theory about that too is that I feel like if I can get them insured with a policy of $100,000 or more, crime will go down drastically. because you will have someone who is invested, and the investor is an insurance company. Because we already know they don't like to pay out anyway. So if someone, for example, has an insurance policy of $500,000, they're gonna investigate better than the police are gonna investigate, because they're not trying to pay out money. So can you imagine, you have a whole block that's insured for $500,000. That block is gonna be protected. You're gonna have police coming through that block every hour on the hour, or maybe less. So that's my goal. So I hope you all learned something new. Sorry if I was kind of out there, but this is just, I've been sick, so. But anytime you guys want to call me or get in contact with me to know more information, you're more than welcome to. And no, you cannot have my number. You know, no. Now, you call me or text me anytime. My name is Zandra, Zandra. Just call me Z. And my number is area code 816-446-4344. Ask me any questions regarding business or life insurance. 446-4344. Okay. But thank you guys for your time.
Good job, good job. Thank you very much, Sandra. I'm gonna do this now because Sarah has to leave. Oh, okay, no wonder I couldn't find it. I did tell you to put it someplace where you would know where it was at, didn't I? Just which? Oh. Okay. All right. So we want to say thank you for coming out and attending and giving us your wisdom, your knowledge, and your time this morning. So we just have a little gift for you, Sarah, if you would come up. Thank you. All right. Look forward to working with you again. Zandra. We want to say thank you for your time and your expertise. And I hope y'all took lots of notes about how to, if you don't have a business, how to formulate your business and what different things that you need to be looking at in terms of being able to do that. I need to grab something from the back. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a 2-minute break, and then that way you guys can get something to eat, some water and all that good stuff, use the restroom, whatever you need to do. And then I'll be back. So let's take about 2 minutes. All right. We are back. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Pastor Billy McClinton. I pastor Sparkles of Hope Christian Ministries, 2908 Indiana, also a member of the Justice and Dignity Center. And this event is actually being sponsored by both the Justice and Dignity Center and Sparkles of Hope Christian Ministries, along with Disciples of Christ Ministries, along with Legacy Financial Group. It's Billy. William is my brother. Yeah, William literally is my brother. I have a brother named William. So thank you all for coming out. Just to let you know a little bit about me. I've been in the ministry, I pretty much say all my life, but pastoring for over 10 years. Also, I'm an author. I wrote a book. We do have it on the back table back there. It's called I got Discovering Your Destiny imprinted in my head, but it's called Wise Moves: How to Navigate through the Business World through Proverbs. It's back there. Somebody go back there and grab it. So you decide you want to pick it up, $10 today. If you see this and it's on and you see it online, you can also find it on Amazon. So I'm going to talk about vision right there. I'm going to talk about vision. Yeah, wise moves. Yeah. Yeah, sure. They gotta forgive me. I don't normally promote myself or promote my stuff, but this is a book for wise moves, how Proverbs can help you navigate the business world. I wrote it with the intention of trying to help people who are in business, plus people who aren't in business, in order to how to kind of navigate and move in the way that you might need to think, and what you might need to do if you find yourself in a place where you're just kind of stuck. Everything I do pretty much is biblically based. So and this was written from the perspective of what you can find in Proverbs. So pick it up. Like I said, you can find it on Amazon. If you see this and if you see this, I'm going to give a special code. So if you email and you want to pick it up, you can pick it up for $10, and that code is going to be WISE. So write it down, and and put that in the email, and we'll get it to you. All right, for just $10. So we're going to talk about vision, and we've talked about. Sarah came in and talked about how to fundraise for your business, right? So getting the monies that you need in order to be able to do what it is that you want to do is very important. Zandra came up and she talked about your legal structures and how to make sure that your business is actually structured right, first of all, so that you can receive funding, especially if you're a nonprofit. If you're not structured properly, you can't receive funding, you know? So all of that has to be structured properly. I'm gonna ask that you silence your phone, please. I appreciate it, but it's still kind of distracting. You know, thank you for talking about it. But so your structure has to be proper so that you can receive funding. one of the things that the Justice and Dignity Center does is puts on these type of events so that we can actually help the community to have an impact in the community by making sure that those who are working can actually do things on a bigger scale. We all start out small, but the goal is to have a major impact, right? So that's one of the purposes for what we're doing here today, is so that we can help each individual and each individual organization to have a greater impact in the community, because that's actually what we've been called to do. So part of the thing about vision is this. Do you know what it is that you've been called to do? If you don't know what it is that you've been called to do, then you have to try to figure that out. You have to find your passion. You have to find where it is and what it is that you're supposed to be doing in this world, okay? Because you're not here by accident. You're here because there is a purpose for you, all right? So let's look. Those of you who have your Bible on your phone, I know you possibly do. I'm gonna look at a couple of scriptures. I'll say this is not church, I know. But everything I do is biblically based. Genesis 1:28 says, "And God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." Now, there's a couple of words that I want to point out. First word is dominion. Dominion, meaning having control or sovereign or government over. If your life is your life, what you do with your life is really up to you. You have sovereign control over it. And if we don't understand that, if there's something that needs to be done that is like a particular irritant to us, where we feel like I want to have an impact in the community, then oftentimes we don't think that we can. We don't know how, or we look at the fact that there are major obstacles in the way. But from the foundation of the earth, you've already been given dominion. You've already been given authority to be able to move and do what it is that has been placed inside of you to do. Sarah was asking the question, what is one of your fundamental beliefs? One of my fundamental beliefs is the fact that I believe personally that God has given everybody a gift and a talent. And I believe that the gift and the talent that he has given is not for that person as an individual. They can benefit by that and benefit from it. But I believe that the gift and the talent that they were given was given for the benefit of us, all of us. You know, we all need each other. There's no major corporation or anything like that that runs by one person. It may have been founded and formed by one person. One person may have had the idea for it, but it's run by a group of people, right? And that's each person working in their place where they where their gift and their talent is. That's where they shine. That's where they find it easy to work, but it becomes a benefit for the whole. Does that make sense? Okay. And the second word I want to focus on is subdue. Subdue. to overcome or bring under control. If we have to subdue something, that means that whatever it is will present a resistance to us. And the biggest thing that we usually have to subdue is our fear. Our fear of the unknown, our fear of our inability to be able to produce or do anything. You know, our fear of what will other people think about us or say about us. Our fear of whether or not we will be accepted or rejected, whether our vision that we have is even worthy of going for it. We might look at everything that seems to be like, I can't do that, or I'm not worthy to be able to do that, or, you know, all of the negative stuff. It has to be subdued. It has to be overcome. Our fear of speaking in public. Our fear of asking for help. And I learned something today. I mean, yeah, I got a great vision and I do preach and do all that stuff, but you know, I find it very, very difficult to ask for money so that the work that I need to be doing can actually go get done. That's something I have to subdue. I have to overcome that, you know? So, he has given us right here at the beginning of the Bible, he tells us that he blessed us and he's given us dominion and he's given us the power to subdue. So, let's take a look at Proverbs 8 and 12. Let me get there. It says, wisdom dwell with prudence and find out knowledge of witty inventions. Wisdom. Wisdom dwells with prudence. Wisdom is experience, knowledge, and good judgment. It's also skill. If you have experience helps to bring more clarity in your knowledge. And when you have more clarity in your knowledge, then you can actually have good judgment. So what we're doing here today is we're trying to bring knowledge. Okay. Now, in order for you can take the knowledge that has been given, right? And then you add experience to it, which means you do practical application. You go out and you learn to fundraise, or you learn to the proper structure of your business and you put the business in place. You learn to do the marketing and different things like that. That gives you that experience that you need so that you're not only dealing with, I can't even think of the word, but you have practical application behind it. And when you move through those phases, then you actually get better judgment for when the next time comes along and you have to do it again. Then you can make a better decision on it, okay? And prudence is it's like a carefulness, you know? It's not hasty, you know? It's detailed in how you move and what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? And it's a wisdom dwells there. So if you are, if you're dealing with wisdom like that, and then it says of witty inventions. So meaning ideas, the ideas that you have, the visions that you have, the goals that you have, the impact that you want to have in the community. That's how we get there. You know, we get there because we gain the knowledge that we need. We go get the experience that we need. And then we move strategically. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. All right. My last one is what most people consider the scariest book in the Bible. Huh? I think I heard somebody say that, and they didn't even say it out loud. They whispered it. Revelations, and like, what is he pulling out of Revelations? Hellfire and brimstone? No. Revelations 1:6. And it says, and hath made us kings and priests unto God and his Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Another part of vision is identity. How do you identify yourself? You have to have proper identity. If you don't have the proper identity, you won't have the motivation to actually go and do what it is that you've already been destined to do. If you don't believe that you're capable of doing it, you won't do it. And let me tell you what happens when you don't do it. All the suffering that you see that you can't stand, that you wish something could be done about, continues. Why? Because you're not doing anything about it. It's up to you to understand that if you feel the injustice that goes on in the world, the pain that goes on in the world, and it's this particular irritant of this one little thing, that is the thing that you are supposed to be working on. So you have to have the right identity to know that you can do it. You have to have the identity of a king or a queen, okay? The reason why that is important is because at the very beginning, he already gave you dominion, which means you can rule and reign over whatever that situation or circumstance is. He's already told you to subdue it. Take control of it. Have the impact that you are supposed to have. Because if not, we all will continue to suffer. Does that make sense? I am extremely passionate about the fact that we all have something to offer in this world. We are supposed to be working for each other in this world. When I joined the Justice and Dignity Center, the reason I joined was because I could immediately see that the vision aligned with the vision that I already had. And it's like, that's a movement I want to be a part of because I believe I can have a bigger impact. Kind of going back to what Sarah was talking about, right? I can have a bigger impact in the community if I'm with a group of people who believe that same thing and they're working what they have to work. And I can get in and help wherever I can get in and help so that we all can move forward, so that we all can grow. Does that make sense? We are not in this world alone. All the crime that we see, all the hatred that we see, all of this stuff that really irritates us and bothers us when we see our children, you know, can't go out and play like they used to and different things like that. Do you know we can change that? We can't change it by ourselves, but we can change it if we're all united together and everybody is doing their part. Might not be big, but it might be huge. Think about this. If Taylor Swift, one little girl, can pack Arrowhead Stadium just to sing songs, do you not understand that that little girl is working in her gift? And that gift is what is packing the stadiums. She do bigger concerts than her daddy. What is lying dormant in you? How do you know that you can't pack a stadium, that your impact won't be to the point to where, you know, you can change an environment? I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guy told me, the guy said on the podcast, he said, Elon Musk probably sleeps 3 to 4 hours a night. But he's always busy trying to do something. We see people who are moving on major levels, right? And we're like, wow, I wish I could do that, or I wish I had that. You probably do have it. And you definitely can do it. You have to have the right identity, though. You have to understand how you really see yourself and then begin to subdue all of that negativity that has come to stop you. Does that make sense? That's all I got. I could keep going because I am a preacher. But if you're not a member of the Justice and Dignity Center, become a member. Come join with us as we attempt to change our environment and really try to change every place that we go to touch. If you don't have your business together, get with somebody, get with Zandra, get with me, you know, so that we can sit down and actually help you to map out your business so that we can get you moving so you can have the impact that you want to have. If you're like, I don't know what I want to do, I don't know how to do it, I think I might want to try this, that, or the other, come talk to us. Come talk to us. There's a quote that says, and this is a quote by Dr. Miles Monroe. And when I heard this, it impacted me straight to my bone. It said, the wealthiest place in the world are not the diamond mines of Africa, are not the oil fields of Afghanistan, but the wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard down the street. Because in the graveyard down the street, you'll find all the buildings that were supposed to be built that were never built. You'll find all the books that were supposed to be written, but were never written. You'll find all the potential of man that was never realized. Don't go to the grave with what God put in you for me. Okay? I want mine. All right. That's all I got. Any questions? Any questions for me? Any questions for Zandra? Anything like that? No? Okay. Well. Thank y'all for allowing me to. Amen. All right. Any announcements that we need to make?
Good morning, Vietnam. I'm just. No, this came to my head. I just want to say that, thank you, guys. I'm not part of this. I'm talking about this business workshop. I just wanted to say that those of you on them social media streets and the partners of the members of Justice Center, this is just the beginning of the business workshop of the Justice Center. There'll be more intimate settings for the members that Sister Zandra and Pastor Billy will be going deeper into the things that they've talked about. This is just because I understand that this was a 2-hour-long workshop and 2-hour-long workshop. Mr. Jim, counting three. And a lot of information was given out that people was like probably went over their heads knowing that. But when we start to implement the that section of the Justice Center, which is like starting today, whenever they gonna get together, it will start to help their businesses grow, help your organization grow. They gave you the tools and the tips how to do it. Now they're going to start to show you how to do it. But it's up to you as an individual to want to do it. It won't be easy and it won't be free. If you're looking for easy, you're looking for free, you won't get it this way. Because nothing's worthwhile is free. Even serving God is not free. You may think it is, but it's not really free. It takes work because you got to read the word. You got to study the word. You got to apply the word. Applying it is hard because you got to change your way of life. But I want to say that and let you guys know that. Anything else come up? You guys got anything coming? Okay. Just wondering anything else is coming up. If anybody wants to, yes, Monday at 6:30. If anyone wants to come out and see what the Just Center is all about, we'll be at 3114 Paseo at 6:30. We have our community meeting. Come on by, check us out. See what we're all about. Come on in and see if what we're doing over there can be beneficial for you in your organization. You might find something that can help you in your life, your organization, your family's life, your friends' life. You never know. Come on by, check it out. If you don't see anything that that interests you, which I doubt, if you don't see that interests you, we're not doing our job. And if we're not doing our job, we gotta get on the ball. So come on down, check us out, and see what we're all about. Amen. I'm done.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who assisted in helping to pull this together. Because like I said, you can't do stuff like this with just, one person. Our presenters had to come to do this. My lovely wife assisted with the food and And the gift. You know, Keith and Montori came out and assisted. You know, sound people, light people, you know, everybody. So I just want to say thank you, Tatiana, for everything that you've done. So that's it. It's a wrap. I don't know if we got any outgoing music or anything, but thank everybody.